We have passed the anniversary of Brodie Lee's passing, and I finally wanted to dip my toes into talking about what I wanted to talk about prior is his last official match. Brodie Lee took on Cody Rhodes in a dog collar match. After Brodie Lee had won the TNT Championship and had dominated for a couple of months, and was ready to tear the house down more and more. Cody Rhodes returned from his little hiatus, decked in his dark attire, and dyed his hair black again. And he would challenge Brodie Lee to a dog collar match on AEW Dynamite in one of the big highlights of that era of AEW, where they were all at their amphitheater, essentially. This is a classic match, I feel. It's a classic. It was everything you needed to tell Brodie being this big monster with his Dark Order stuff, and yet he still had time to be a comedian. And he took on Cody Rhodes, and they just tore it down for 20 minutes. And even the hype image they made was awesome. Like, Cody Rhodes is American Nightmare symbol embedded within the Dark Order symbol. It's just awesome. I recall watching this, loving every second of it, and I was really thinking Brodie was going to win. I really did. I wanted Brodie to win because Cody had his time to be champ for a while. Now it was time to give it to Brodie, let him run with it for as much as he can with the Dark Order, and have fun with it. And then Cody won and regained the TNT Championship. And everyone was subsequently pissed about that because no one wanted Cody to be champion again so soon. And then he would drop the towel just several weeks later to Darby Allin to complete the story with Darby Allin and Cody in that regard. But Brodie Lee wrote a tweet saying respect to Cody Rhodes and everything. What we didn't know, that would be his last tweet. Because he took a time off. It was reported he had an undisclosed injury at the time. And fans were eagerly hyped up at the idea of Brodie Lee coming back. I was hyped up for his return eventually. He was going to come back. He was going to do chaos and just take the Dark Order to new strides. And then there was the Forbidden Door starting out with Impact and AEW, and then it was like, man, the amount of stories and talent you're going to get from that stuff. And imagine the talent Brodie could work with. And me and some buddies were on a chat forum talking about it, thinking about all the potential matches we could get. One of them being Brodie Lee and doing stuff there with Impact, crossing over and fighting Impact wrestlers. Like, imagine Brodie Lee versus Eric Young in Cult versus Cult match. And then a day after Christmas, we got the announcement that I was on Twitter just looking through stuff. Then I went on AEW's Twitter page to see how things were looking, and then I saw Brodie Lee was trending, and I was like, why is Brodie Lee trending? Like, oh, it's probably just like, you know, because on my trending page, they always do that kind of stuff where he gets a little traction and whatnot. I thought, oh, maybe it's about AEW and Impact and dream matches people cooked up there. I remember watching it, and then I read what happened, and for like a good maybe 20 minutes, I was stunned. I was stunned that I heard the announcement Brodie Lee had passed away. And we didn't know what was going on. I initially thought it might have been COVID, because COVID was ravaging the world at the time, and Omicron's continuing it. I definitely thought something happened with Brodie Lee, like maybe he got sick and he passed away, and no one knew what was going on. This was before I joined ATW. I was stunned, I was shocked, and I was sad to hear what happened. I couldn't really mentally connect what was going on for 10 minutes, maybe 20, and I was a little bit in denial about that. And then reality set in, and I'm just, oh, that's why he dropped the title and left. He was probably sick, and he still went out and worked. But, and the injury might have been like just to not really say what was going on because he wanted to respect that privacy. I look at this match now, it's like, I'm not mad Cody won. I'm not. Even back then, like, I wasn't happy Cody won, but I wasn't, like, pissed off like a lot of people get with him nowadays. I just thought it was too soon, and now with this context, it was depressing to hear. Just looking back on this match just makes me sad because, like, Brodie Lee, the last time he had a crowd cheering for him was in WWE, and right before he could get that kind of response in AEW, the pandemic happened. He debuted to basically an empty arena, and I'm that guy that's like, man, imagine had the pandemic not happened, he would have been cheered like it was the 90s again, when the 90s was all about pops. And yeah, he still went out and did all this insane stuff. He tore it with his McMahon gimmick, even though he never said it was McMahon that he was portraying. He was portraying a mafia guy, and I'm thinking, is that how you saw Vince? Like, I laughed about that because that was clearly what they were doing was Vince stuff. And if Brodie saw Vince like a mafia boss, then I'm a little disturbed by that, but like, and then he goes ahead and talks about Twitch and talks about the evil, like, Twitch is dead and whatnot, and you're detrimental to my company. Because, let's be real, WWE needed to be shot at because of that third-party nonsense they did. But yeah, then we did the tribute show for Brodie. WWE did a tribute to them, but people were kind of mad about how they went about doing the tribute. I was like, I saw what they did, and I was like, why did they put the video package on Twitter and not put it on the show? Like, that was my issue. Like, I was like, okay, they did some good thing, but I feel like they could have really tried to really showcase what Brodie Lee meant to a lot of the wrestlers. Because there was a lot of sadness in that locker room, and Big E was sad, and everyone was sad. And then when that happened, Brodie Lee did the memorial show on AEW. Beautiful show. They retired the original TNT title belt design, which was the gold and red, and replaced it with a standard gold and black. And they gave it to negative one, and he would show up on AEW for the remainder of the show of the pandemic year. It was kind of awesome to see that kid being respected and loved by the fans, and seeing him get to hang out with the people Brodie Lee was also close with, and, you know, help this kid get through the grieving process that his dad's gone. And then they did this awesome tribute. Tony Khan even paid to keep the music for life, just so that music video never goes away, because copyright is a horrible thing. And then I still look back on this match, I still get sad about it, because I know, man, that is a match that really should have had a crowd, and I wish we could have had more people there. I wish a lot of things were different. And Brodie Lee, and I could bring up other stuff what happened with Brodie Lee, like his wife after having to come out instead of on her terms, she was forced to, I feel like, by the people who were spreading conspiracy stuff and nonsense against people whose names I will not mention, and had to explain why what happened to Brodie was not COVID, and everyone kept denying it was COVID, and yet people still think, yeah, it was COVID, even though she explained that he had a rare condition with his lungs that hardens and thickens and is irreversible. So yeah, it affects his breathing and it makes things worse. And yet we're 1 year on, we paid our respects to Brodie. During the time I made my own 10 bell salute video on Twitter, and I'm still sad to see this guy because there was so much he had to offer, and there was so much left he could have done had this tragedy not happened. Like, I look at all the talent that's come in since then, and Punk even and the people Brodie brought in because how fun he was having being in AEW, like Malachi Black. Tommy End came out and said, Brodie Lee called him and said, if anything happens, come here. I'm happy here. It's so fun here. And CM Punk came back and he said the AEW's handling of Brodie Lee's passing and the secrecy and unity they kept with him, that drove him to be like, I can trust these guys. I can come back. I can work one more run. Brian, a lot of people, and I look at this roster and I'm thinking, man, the people he could work with right now if he was still around. Like, I would have loved to see Malachi Black and him. I would have loved to see Brian and Brodie. I mean, like, we know we had these feuds in WWE with Brodie Lee, Luke Harper fighting Brian and Punk, but like, imagine if it was now they don't have to be restrained or confined to a specific style. They could go for as long as they want. And then I still get, and the Dark Order, like, they were happy with -1 hanging out with him, giving him happiness. And I recall seeing all this great stuff, and then as time went on, that great stuff was starting to get very bad with people who kept making stuff up about Brodie's passing, talking about the conspiracy stuff, and then people kept saying they're exploiting it and whatnot, and I'm like, and this was starting even like hours after he was confirmed dead, and yet I had to see so much idiocy, make up stuff. I had to see people who were respected journalists make horrible statements that unleash Pandora's box upon wrestling and toxify this whole thing, and how they were exploiting Brodie and covering stuff up about him. And I was like, look, I get it, speaking out was terrible, we're all on edge with the COVID virus, but do we really have to lash out on a family that just lost their father and the wife that is now a widow? And Amanda, all due respect to her, she's been pulling through this, even when she was getting harassed on site by people who kept calling her an exploiter and everything. And I'm just like, why? And I'm just stunned that this is how bad things got in the wrestling, in the fan base. Like, to stop being fans, to start being tribalists mentality and attacking anything that had to do with AEW or any brought up about Brodie. You just bring up the toxicity, and I'm just mad and getting madder every time when I saw it. And then people go ahead and downplay who Brodie was, saying he was a mid-carder, he's not worth it, he's being put on a pedestal. And I'm just that guy that's like, oh my god, Will they stop saying this stuff about Brodie? Like, people loved Brodie. You're telling Big E shouldn't like him because he went over there? You're telling me a lot of people shouldn't like Brodie because, oh, well, he went to the enemy and whatnot. It's like, if WWE and AEW can go on their pages and start saying, respect to Brodie, respect to Luke Harper, and like each other's tweets and Instagram posts, then why can't the tribalists just put aside their differences and be like, oh, well, the companies are respecting each other. Well, maybe we should try that. Like, they could have picked just one day. And just talking about this just makes me mad. And then I saw people who were pretty terrible already got even worse. And I don't even know what's going on anymore on that front. Still sad about all this. And I don't know. I'm not going to make any defenses why the trialists are acting like this. I could just go and say maybe they're still trying to handle it and they're lashing out at it because they still can't imagine he's gone. Like, I wrote, like I said, like, I always thought Brodie Lee would be the one guy from AEW that goes from WWE to AEW and goes back to WWE just to hang out with his old buddies, to hang out with Bray Wyatt, to hang out with Rotunda, to hang out with Big E again. Just work one last run with them, put these guys over, and it's like, call it a career. I really thought he was going to be the one guy that goes from AEW to WWE just to be with his friends. I really thought that, and Bray Wyatt did stuff in honor of Brodie, like his gear, put the Bludgeon Brothers stuff on him, and during his last match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania, he even screams out, yeah, 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 because I was like, considering Bray Wyatt has had a history with mental depression and everything, I thought, yeah, this is hurting him a lot. Like, this guy, like, Bray Wyatt even wrote a post saying how he wanted to be with Brodie, and they were going to be, like, in their 60s and 70s watching little Brodies and youngins running around, and they would be together buddies and whatnot, and be a family and all that. When you're on, I'm still surprised what happened. And yet, I get more disgusted when the tribalists start waving their flags for the multi-billion-dollar companies to say Brodie Lee was a traitor, he was nobody, he was nothing because he went over there and whatnot. And I'm like, still outrages me when you're on. And I'm still trying to wonder why people still think this. And yeah. Brodie Lee, I was originally going to make this video about Brodie Lee's final match. That's why I started off in this, but I really diverged from that just to talk about Brodie Lee's passing 1 year later. It's just a sad day that I recall. I was stunned, and I don't think I'm gonna forget this anytime soon, sadly, because I look at Brodie, I'm like, man, wish he was still here. I'm like, he would be having fun more than ever with all these people, just doing all these shenanigans. Like, I want to imagine this a reality where he still lived and he's working with all these people, he's stealing the show, he's contending against Hangman right now, fighting for the AEW World Championship, he's tearing it down week by week on tour with these guys and gals, he's throwing papers at the Dark Order, like, we are one. This was Neo Reality Entertainment, the WrestleVerse. Check out my other stuff if you like. Just two things. One, rest in peace, Brodie. Thank you for everything. And two, the tribalists and very messed up people who want to take advantage of this tragedy, either just be better. Just be better. See ya.